The planet of Zythera was unlike any human had ever seen. Floating mountains drifted over glowing valleys, rivers ran with liquid crystal, and the sky shimmered in colors that seemed impossible to describe. At the center of this extraordinary world stood the palace of the alien queen, a being of beauty and power, whose presence alone could silence an entire crowd. Her palace floated above the highest peak, with towers of gleaming crystal reaching toward the sky, and gardens suspended in midair, each filled with strange flora that pulsed with light. No one dared spend a night within its walls. Stories told of visitors who had entered and never returned, and whispers of mysterious disappearances had spread across the galaxy. To the inhabitants of Zythera, the queen was untouchable, mysterious, and feared. Ethan, a human explorer from Earth, had spent his life seeking the unknown. Unlike others, he did not seek riches or power. His curiosity was his compass, and it had brought him farther than most humans had ever gone. When he arrived on Zythera, he learned of the alien queen's legend, of the night no one survived, and of the countless species who had failed. Most would have turned away, but not Ethan. He wanted to understand the queen, not conquer her. To him, the stories were a challenge of intellect and courage, and he welcomed it. Word of Ethan's arrival spread quickly through the palace. Alien ambassadors, who had come from far-off worlds seeking alliances, watched him with disbelief. Whispers filled the marble halls. No human has ever dared, and no human will survive. Yet Ethan walked without fear. He studied the architecture of the palace, marveled at the gardens that floated in midair, and noted the intricate patterns of light that reflected off the crystal towers. His eyes sparkled with wonder. But there was also a sharp intelligence in them, a calm that seemed to make the palace itself pause. The queen, seated upon her throne of polished crystal, observed from her chamber. Her presence was commanding, her gaze piercing, yet there was curiosity in her eyes. When she learned a human had volunteered to spend the night, she was intrigued. She had seen countless visitors, each hoping to earn her favor or gain secrets of her knowledge. None had succeeded. Most had faltered out of fear, arrogance, or impatience, but this human seemed different. "You may enter," she finally said, her voice echoing with authority and a soft undertone of amusement. "But understand this. A night in my palace is no ordinary trial. You may learn much, or you may not leave at all." Ethan nodded. "I understand. I only wish to learn, not to harm." As he stepped through the palace gates, the air itself seemed to hum. Strange colors danced across the walls, and intricate patterns shifted as though the palace were alive. The first challenge was presented almost immediately. A labyrinth. But it was no ordinary maze. It was filled with illusions, designed to exploit a visitor's deepest fears. Doors led to dead ends that seemed infinite. Hallways stretched beyond reason, and shadows took shapes that whispered doubts into the mind. Many species had entered and been trapped for hours, days, or even longer, overwhelmed by fear and confusion. Ethan took a deep breath. He remembered the stories, but he did not let them cloud his mind. He analyzed each pattern, noticing the subtle shifts in light and the faint hum that indicated the correct path. He relied on observation, logic, and patience rather than brute strength or luck. When illusions tried to frighten him with visions of failure, he recognized them for what they were: tests of perception. With each step, he grew more confident, noting how the illusions changed according to his reactions. Where fear was expected, he remained calm. Where arrogance would have led others astray, he stayed humble. Hours passed in the labyrinth, yet Ethan did not falter. He solved puzzles no alien had ever solved, bypassed traps that had ensnared countless others, and moved with a careful precision that drew the attention of the queen herself. From her high tower, she watched silently, her eyes narrowing in surprise and fascination. The human was not only clever, but adaptable. He was not afraid of failure, nor was he careless. His mind worked in ways that even the most advanced alien intellects could not predict. Finally, he emerged from the labyrinth. The walls of the maze shimmered and dissolved, leaving him standing in the palace's central courtyard. The air was cooler here, filled with the scent of exotic flowers that glowed in the moonlight. Water flowed from floating fountains, forming patterns that defied gravity. Ethan's gaze swept across the landscape, taking in every detail. He could feel the eyes of the palace upon him, yet he did not feel fear. Instead, there was awe, curiosity, and a quiet determination. The queen approached. She moved with grace and authority, her presence overwhelming yet strangely comforting. Her eyes, large and luminous, seemed to see into Ethan's very soul. "Most fail long before reaching this point," she said softly. "You have passed the first test. Many would have given up, would have panicked, or turned back. But you do not falter." Ethan bowed respectfully. "I am here to understand, not to impress. The night is long, and I wish to learn as much as I can." The queen's lips curved slightly in amusement. "Few have ever said such a thing. Most come seeking favor, power, or glory. You come seeking knowledge. That alone sets you apart." The first night of the trial continued in a way that challenged not only intellect, but emotion. The queen presented Ethan with a series of riddles and puzzles, each more complex than the last. Some required logic, others creativity, and some demanded insight into human nature. Ethan approached each calmly, thinking carefully and responding with honesty and clarity. The queen listened silently, observing not only his answers, but the way he thought, how he approached each challenge, and how he treated the palace itself. The alien courtiers watched from a distance, whispering among themselves. "No human has ever survived the labyrinth, and now he solves the queen's own riddles?" they murmured. Their astonishment grew as Ethan's responses revealed a mind both clever and insightful, capable of understanding alien reasoning yet remaining uniquely human. As the hours passed, the queen's challenges became more personal. She asked questions that probed his ethics, his motivations, and his courage. She tested how he would react under pressure, how he would weigh choices, and how he treated others. Ethan responded with honesty and thoughtfulness. Where others might have lied to gain favor, he spoke plainly. Where arrogance could have tempted him, he remained humble. Slowly, the queen's curiosity turned to admiration. Here was a human who not only survived the night but understood the subtle balance of intellect, emotion, and courage. When the first part of the night ended, Ethan was led to the inner gardens of the palace. Floating bridges connected islands of exotic plants, each glowing with soft light. Streams ran in midair, and the scent of flowers mixed with the faint hum of crystal structures. The queen stood nearby, observing him without interruption. For the first time in centuries, the palace was quiet in a way that suggested anticipation rather than fear. Ethan approached the queen cautiously, bowing slightly. "Yet I feel there is more to understand. Your people, your world. It is incredible, and I wish to see it fully." The queen studied him for a long moment. Her gaze was intense, yet there was something almost warm beneath it. "Few have ever approached me with such humility and courage. The night is still young, and yet you have shown a strength that surprises even me. Perhaps you will not only survive this night but leave a mark upon my palace that will not be forgotten." The first part of Ethan's trial ended with the human standing in the glowing gardens, a mixture of wonder, exhaustion, and quiet pride on his face. The palace had been designed to intimidate, to test, and to overwhelm. Yet Ethan had faced it all with clarity, courage, and a mind uniquely human. The alien courtiers whispered among themselves in amazement, and even the queen could not hide her intrigue. As dawn approached, The floating gardens glimmered with the first light of Zythera's sun. Ethan looked out over the palace and the city below, realizing that the night had only just begun. The tests had been more than physical or intellectual. They had touched the essence of his character. And the Queen seemed to sense that he was different from any visitor she had ever seen. The whispers of fear and awe that filled the palace were replaced with quiet anticipation. Everyone wondered, could a human truly spend the night with the alien queen and emerge not only alive, but victorious? Ethan's answer seemed clear in his steady gaze. He was ready. Whatever lay ahead, he would meet it with courage, honesty, and that unique human determination that had brought him this far. For the first time, the legend of the alien queen's night trial might be rewritten. A human had entered, fearless and unshakable, and the palace itself seemed to acknowledge it. Somewhere in the crystal towers, the queen smiled faintly, intrigued by the audacity, courage, and intelligence of this one human who dared where all others had failed. And so, the first part of Ethan's night with the alien queen ended not with fear, but with the promise of something extraordinary. The palace was alive with anticipation. The human's ingenuity had earned a cautious respect, and the night stretched ahead, full of unknown challenges, mysteries, and revelations waiting to be discovered. The night deepened over the palace of the alien queen, but Ethan's resolve did not waver. While the palace slept in a quiet glow, he remained awake in the floating gardens, observing the alien flora and the patterns of the crystal towers. Every detail seemed to tell a story. The way light refracted through the towers, the gentle hum of energy that pulsed through the gardens, and the movement of creatures that glided silently through the air. Most visitors would have been overwhelmed by the alien world, yet Ethan's mind worked methodically, absorbing information and noticing patterns others might miss. The queen appeared beside him without a sound. Her movement was so graceful that it seemed almost as if she had materialized from the light itself. "You continue to observe," she said, her voice calm but carrying an undertone of curiosity. "Few have the patience to notice the subtle details. Most focus only on what is obvious or immediately impressive. Yet you see what is hidden." Ethan looked up, giving a respectful bow. "Your palace is remarkable. Every structure, every plant, it seems alive. I want to understand how it all works, how your people maintain such balance." The queen's eyes glimmered in the moonlight. "Understanding is not enough. You must also learn to act. Observation without action leads to stagnation." She led him through the gardens to a chamber that hovered above the largest tower, overlooking the glowing city below. Inside, the room was filled with holographic displays, showing complex simulations of planetary systems, alien civilizations, and defense mechanisms. "The final test of your night begins now," she said. "It is a scenario that has ended many lives. You must make choices that affect the fate of my people and the balance of this planet. It will test your mind, your heart, and your courage." Ethan stepped forward without hesitation. "I understand. I will do my best." The simulation began. A sudden crisis erupted across the planet. A violent storm of energy particles threatened to destabilize the city, while hostile forces from a distant system sought to take advantage of the chaos. Holographic representations of alien citizens moved frantically, and warnings flashed across the displays. Many who had attempted this test before failed because they panicked, chose selfish solutions, or froze under pressure. Ethan took a deep breath. He analyzed the data carefully. The storm was unpredictable, but it followed a pattern he could detect. He prioritized the safety of the civilians first, devising protective measures using the planetary energy shields. Then, he calculated strategies to neutralize the external threat without unnecessary conflict. His approach was neither reckless nor violent, but smart, precise, and considerate of all lives involved. The queen observed silently, Her expression remained neutral, but Ethan could sense her attention, her curiosity, and a growing respect. Where others might have relied on brute force or dominance, Ethan relied on intellect, empathy, and strategic thinking. He communicated with holographic representations of her advisors, coordinating plans that minimized harm while maximizing efficiency. Slowly, the crisis began to resolve, and the city stabilized under his guidance. When the simulation ended, the room fell silent. The Queen's voice broke the quiet. Most have failed this test. They act out of fear, arrogance, or impatience. You have shown clarity, courage, and consideration. You have succeeded where all others have failed. Ethan nodded, though he felt no pride. I only did what seemed right. I wanted to protect your people, to understand the problem fully before acting. The Queen studied him closely. And that is what separates you from the others. You do not seek personal gain, only understanding and balance. That is rare. She gestured for him to follow her to a private balcony overlooking the city. The first light of Zythera's sun was beginning to crest the horizon, casting golden and violet hues across the floating towers and gardens. Ethan's eyes widened at the sight. Even after hours of exploration, the beauty of this world continued to amaze him. Most would be blinded by beauty, she said softly, or intimidated by power. You, however, approach both with calm and respect. That is why you endure the night. Ethan remained silent, letting the Queen's words sink in. He realized that the night had tested not only his mind but his character. Every challenge, every illusion, and every simulation was designed to measure how a visitor would respond when faced with fear, temptation, and the unknown. And through it all, he had remained himself honest, thoughtful, and brave. The Queen led him to the inner sanctum, a place rarely seen by anyone. The room was enormous, with walls made of translucent crystal that displayed stars, galaxies, and distant planets as if the universe itself were within reach. A large table in the center glowed faintly, showing maps, charts, and projections of potential future events. Here, the Queen revealed her greatest secret: the history of her people, their knowledge of the galaxy, and the responsibilities that came with ruling such a powerful civilization. You have seen much tonight, she said. But to understand fully, you must comprehend the choices that shape this world. My people have survived centuries because of careful decisions, but even the wisest can make mistakes. Your perspective is unique. Humans think differently, see differently. That is why you are here. Ethan listened intently, absorbing every word. He asked questions, not out of arrogance, but genuine curiosity. He wanted to understand the motivations, the history, and the challenges of her civilization. Each answer deepened his respect for the Queen and her people, and the Queen, in turn, began to recognize the value of his perspective. Hours passed as they spoke. Ethan shared stories of humanity, its triumphs and failures, and the lessons he had learned. The Queen listened, sometimes interrupting with questions, sometimes remaining silent, reflecting. By the time the sun was fully above the horizon, the palace was filled with a quiet energy of understanding and mutual respect. Finally, the Queen spoke with a tone that carried both admiration and relief. You have passed the night. No human, nor any other species, has ever done what you have. You have endured trials of fear, intellect, and character. And yet, you remain humble, insightful, and human. Ethan bowed his head respectfully. I am grateful for the opportunity. I did not seek to impress, only to understand. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Your courage, your mind, and your honesty, they are extraordinary. You have proven something important, that humanity, though young and untested in many ways, possesses qualities that can inspire even the oldest and most advanced civilizations. For the first time in centuries, the queen smiled openly. It was not a smile of amusement, but of genuine appreciation and acknowledgement. She had watched countless visitors attempt the night, and all had failed for reasons of fear, arrogance, or lack of understanding. Ethan had succeeded because he embodied the rare combination of courage, empathy, intelligence, and humility. The city below began to awaken, the light reflecting off the crystal towers and floating gardens in a dazzling display. Ethan stood beside the queen on the balcony, feeling a sense of accomplishment, but also humility. He understood that his journey was not over. The night had revealed both the wonders and the responsibilities of her civilization, and he had been entrusted with knowledge few could ever hope to gain. The queen spoke again, her voice soft but resolute. Remember this night, human. It is not only a test of survival, but a measure of what is possible when one acts with courage and integrity. You have shown that humanity can stand among the greatest of civilizations, not through power or fear, but through character and thought. Ethan nodded, taking in the words and the sight before him. The night had been long, challenging, and filled with moments that could have broken others. Yet he had endured, and in doing so, he had shown the queen, and perhaps the universe, that humans were capable of extraordinary things. As the sun rose fully over Zythera, the queen extended her hand, not in command, but in partnership. You may leave the palace now, but know this: your night with me has changed something. You have proven what is possible when one dares to face the unknown with courage, honesty, and an open mind. The galaxy may yet see more of what humanity can offer. Ethan took her hand respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will carry the lessons of this night with me always. As he descended from the palace, the courtiers and citizens of Zythera watched in awe. A human had not only survived the night, but had impressed the alien queen herself. His name would be remembered across the planet and throughout the galaxy as the one who dared what no one else had and emerged not only alive, but victorious. The legend of the alien queen's night trial was rewritten that day. It was no longer a tale of fear and mystery, but of courage, intelligence, and the extraordinary qualities of humanity. Ethan's night in the palace became a story told for generations, a story of a human who dared, who observed, who thought, and who earned the trust and respect of the most powerful being in the galaxy. And as he looked back one final time at the floating palace, bathed in the morning light, Ethan understood something deeper than knowledge or survival. He understood the unique potential of humanity, the ability to stand tall even in the presence of legends, to act with integrity when others fail, and to see the extraordinary in what others fear. The night was over, but its lessons would echo across worlds. For Ethan, the night had been not only a trial, but a revelation. And for the alien queen, it had been a discovery that humans, though young and untested, might be the most remarkable species in the galaxy. And so, a new chapter began for both human and alien. A chapter of respect, understanding, and the promise of a future shaped by courage, intellect, and the qualities that made humans truly extraordinary.